How's it going, everyone? I hope you guys are having a fantastic day and welcome to another video. Now, in the past couple of days, there has been big news on the leaked Nintendo Switch successor, and that's been causing a lot of buzz. There have been massive rumors of the leaked specifications, like the tech specs of this new Switch 2, as everyone's calling it, and it's looking pretty interesting. It's a pretty substantial upgrade over the Switch 1, which even in 2017 was pretty outdated at that point. So this is a pretty substantial upgrade, and I think unlike the Switch 1, I think the Switch 2 has a big opportunity to gain third-party support, not because of the potential success, but because of limitations set by its competitors. So I want to talk about it and talk about why, in my opinion, I think the Series S is actually helping the Switch 2 right now, and it will help it in the future. So let's get into it. Just to be clear before we begin, this is based off of rumored specs and basically leaks. We don't actually know what the official specs are for this, so take everything here with a grain of salt. I'm just providing my opinions based on what we know so far and basically what was rumored. Now, to just quickly go over the specs that we learned, at least that were leaked or rumored, the Nintendo Switch 2 is rumored to run the new NVIDIA T239 chip, which is a Tegra chip. This is one of the latest chips that they have, and it's quite interesting. So it's running a octa-core CPU, octa-core ARM CPU, running on the Ampere GPU architecture, which is pretty big. That's the RTX 30 series, with 1,536 CUDA cores, 12 gigs of LPDDR5 RAM on a 128-bit bus, which is a bandwidth of around 102 gigabits per second. This is quite a substantial upgrade over the Switch 1, which had like a third of the RAM and a substantially less powerful GPU architecture. So this is pretty big, and the GPU also supports NVIDIA's RTX 30 features like DLSS and FrameGen. So that could be massive for this console, because that would mean that with those technologies you could run way more demanding games without having to hinder performance as much, which is pretty big. Now, in classic internet fashion, everyone is seemingly picking apart the specs of the Nintendo Switch 2 and the rumored specs, and have basically been finding equivalents to PC components and seeing comparative performance and what can we expect, right? So based on what people are saying and based on my interpretation, at least on the specs, it seems like given with the CUDA cores and the memory bus, we're looking at a slightly worse 1660 Ti with the Ampere architecture. It means that it is significantly more powerful than the Switch 1, but obviously 1660 Ti is nothing to really be, amazed back. I mean, this thing released back a couple years ago. Looking at console equivalents now, we're looking mainly at between the performance of maybe an Xbox One X and the Xbox Series S, which is kind of an interesting middle ground to be in between. And so, to be honest with you, I would not be surprised if the Switch 2 was comparable to a Series S, which is quite interesting. And it's something that we haven't seen in literally like the past decade or two, where Nintendo Switch's hardware is comparable to a modern console equivalent, if that makes sense. I mean, like, if you take a look at the Switch, the Wii, the Wii U, those consoles were significantly behind in terms of processing power and GPU performance compared to the PlayStation and Xboxes that released during that time. Now that we have the Series S, though, that's obviously not the case. And the Series S has been a very controversial console ever since its release, with how less powerful it is compared to the X counterpart, and how Microsoft mandates console parity when it comes to any third-party releases onto the platform. So a lot of people have been really ragging on the Xbox Series S for it being less powerful and preventing a lot of the games to show up on Xbox, or to be significantly worse on the Series S. But ironically, this system and the limitations it has could be the key to help Nintendo get more third-party developers on their system. Because if it is to be believed that the consoles between the Switch 2 and the Series S are comparable, that would mean that if it can run on the Series S, it can definitely run on Nintendo's newest platform. And especially with NVIDIA's DLSS technologies to help performance a little bit, that's going to help a lot in getting these games onto the Nintendo Switch 2. which is pretty big. It's pretty well known for the past decade or two that the third-party support on the Nintendo Switch has been very lackluster, and that's mainly due to the limitations of the hardware, especially when you were comparing the PS4 and Xbox One era to like the Wii U and the Switch times, where a lot of third-party games weren't being ported onto Nintendo platforms either because of its market share or the hardware was simply not powerful enough to get the games on there, like Red Dead Redemption 2 as a big example there. But with the Xbox Series S existing and being close in performance-wise with the rumored Switch 2, this console, this Xbox, could actually really help and bolster Nintendo's third-party lineup to even more demanding titles, which is something that they haven't really been able to do over the past decade and could really mean big sales for them. I mean, Nintendo already has a big influence because of their exclusives. If they can really nail that third-party aspect and third-party support, this thing will fly off the shelves even more and potentially actually give Sony some competition, because Nintendo is actually providing a viable alternative to the PlayStation 5 with an absolute banger first-party library and a very, very strong potential third-party library. Overall, I'm very interested to seeing what Nintendo has to offer in store, and I find it very interesting how the Xbox and how Microsoft's strategy this generation could actually potentially help their competitors, ironically, which is not good for Microsoft, let me be clear here. So very excited to see what the Switch 2 has to offer, but yeah, just providing my thoughts on this because this just popped in my mind when I was taking a shower. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.